The Champions League, it's back for the second segment of last 16 games. We have Inter versus Atletico, which is happening right after we record this episode. So I'm afraid we won't be talking to you about that one, but we will be talking about Napoli against Barcelona, having a little throw ahead to that at a fascinating moment because, of course, Napoli have just replaced Walter Mazzarri, their second managerial change of the season, with Francesco Calzona, the Slovakia manager. Mina, I'm going to come to you quickly because I know you are a little time on time. Might not be able to stay with us till the end of this recording. I was wondering, because I know you also keep a very close eye on Liga, how you think this one is shaping up. Because Napoli are in an odd moment. It's a very odd time to change your manager, but Barcelona are not exactly having things their way under Xavi at all at the moment either.
No, they needed a last-ditch penalty in their match over the weekend against Celta Vigo. They only managed a 3-3 draw against Granada, of all people. This was a team that was defensively perfect last year. I genuinely think that it was interesting because sometimes they got a lot of flack for actually not always playing the Barcelona way and actually prioritizing at times that strong defense, being a little bit pragmatic in certain games, trying to ensure victories, and they managed to win the league title. Araujo, especially, in my opinion, was probably one of the best centre-backs in world football. This season, obviously, they've lost Dembele, who allowed them that counter-attacking threat, a lot of pace, but they lost Busquets in the middle. And then they've had injuries to Gavi, who's been missing now for a long time, and of course, Pedri. And not having that understanding in midfield has put even more pressure on the back line. And it just seems so disjointed. Right now, the players don't know where they are. They don't have their tactical reference points. Lewandowski seems, in particular, very annoyed most of the time, although he did seem annoyed, to be honest with you, last year as well.
I feel like that's just Robert Lewandowski's like general demeanor. I just feel like he goes through life. Do you not feel like he's like one of those people who like goes through like sees a roadworks or whatever and gives it a little tusk and just has that sort of attitude. Maybe I'm being unfair on him.
I thought you were going to say sees the roadworks and then like kicks dirt at it.
Which is, he's sort of got that air of like a grandparent who's judging you for everything you're doing.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think that he's sort of left and thought that he was going to come to Barcelona. It was always his dream to go and play La Liga. I don't know whether it was Real Madrid or, to be honest with you, or Barcelona, because he talked a lot about moving to Real Madrid as well. And sort of, I think he thought that he was just going to be magnificent there, and he is obviously a great striker. It's just that Barcelona is just a team in decline. There's actually a really great article that I read in The Athletic sort of several weeks ago that was talking about the fact that when Laporta came to be the president, the question at the time was, do we rebuild, start with youngsters, start a whole new project, and then just find our way back to the top? Or do we go big and go home? Just go and quickly invest in great stars. This is the first time that he came, but he had the likes of Zubizarreta and Bergestein, and he trusted them. He trusted in his management team and decided to go big or go home. And it worked out stupendously for him. Now he has come back and he was asked that same question again, and he decided to go big and go home, which is why they activated all those financial levers and do everything, because they thought this would pay off. And it sort of started to look like it would when they won the league title. But unfortunately for them, it hasn't really paid out in the way that they wanted it to, because the money is in the Champions League. They weren't doing enough. There was still a lot of criticism coming to them because they weren't really necessarily being faithful to the traditional Barcelona way under Xavi. And then there's all these problems because 33 different executives have left since Laporta's come back, and none more important than sporting director Alemany. And losing him, I think, has been tragic because you've got Deco in charge. And Deco is a Jorge Mendes guy. And when you have someone like that available, then you're always almost held hostage by what Jorge Mendes wants. And he did an interview recently. I'm sorry, I'm really blabbering on about Barcelona, but it's such an interesting topic.
It's definitely it's the time to do it. We want to hear about Napoli's exponents.
But he did this interview basically with the Portuguese newspaper, and the editor is a really good friend of his, in which he talked about that the Barcelona being held hostage by playing that style of play, and that they need to sort of not focus on it so much, like they have to play the Barcelona way, but maybe allow themselves to be a bit more flexible. He was trashed by the newspapers. And it was really awful because Xavi came out from a football match. And that was the first thing he was asked after Granada was, hey, what do you think of these comments? And he was like, well, wait, what? Like he had no idea. And this interview had taken place a while ago and was written about in the newspapers, but no one had asked him about it and they hadn't even noticed it. So he was like, no, I'm really surprised about that. He knows that, this is Barcelona and we have to play this way. The fans were going out, they were outraged. The newspaper, the publication, since came out and retracted and said, oh, they made errors in communication and translation. They're both Portuguese, so I don't know where the translation errors happened, but sure, whatever you want. But it seems to be that this is the question mark right now. Like, what's going on? What does Deco want to do? Is he the right man in charge? Is this all about greedy ownership? Are they the right people to be in charge at the moment? I don't know, but a lot of too many good players left. Jordi Alba, Busquets, even Dembele, and let's just say the ones that have arrived have not been the same level. And can they beat Napoli? Sure, because I can beat Napoli today. But but I do think that it's a shame because if this match had happened last year, we're talking about respective title winners, two big brands, two good styles of football. It's a shame it didn't happen a year earlier.
Yeah, not just all those players leaving Mina, but of course Xavi leaving at the end of the season, which is its own story. I totally agree. It feels like a game that should be a la portata. It should be winnable. Like it's something that it should be possible for Napoli, and yet it's hard for me to understand how it could be winnable when you've got a manager coming in who's going to have a training session maybe to get to know his players. I was reading about all sorts of things I've been reading about. One thing I picked up from Lazio's win over Bayern Munich, Sarri imposing a double training session a day before the game, which is something unheard of, right? You should be letting your players get some extra time in their legs. But in the end, it was exactly what Lazio needed because that whole first half against Bayern Munich was all about discipline. It was all about how they managed the space, how they occupied the areas that Bayern wanted to occupy, forcing them to go wide, forcing them not to get those spaces behind the midfield that they wanted to get into, and that was the great triumph. And there's literally no way. There's no way that you can come in with a great tactical plan for this. What do you come in with your tactical plan for this game? You just line up and say, hey, you guys know me. I was here before. You know me when Spalletti was here. Let's do what we did then.